over the last 8 years of my own self-development journey, I've noticed a lot of different changes in the self-improvement space. And the way I see things evolving over these next couple of years is really going from self-improvement to self-mastery, because there is a massive, massive gap in the meaning behind what it means to actually be a man. And this is just a discovery that I've just seen from observing these different creators, what's trending, what people are drawn to. And if we look at the different creators like Andrew Tate, for example, where masculinity and everything just started to pop off, I think a lot of his message is very, very positive, but I also think that there was a big, big misconception and miscommunication that was picked up by a lot of guys. This is something I felt really, really called to share, because for me personally, I didn't grow up with a lot of masculine figures. I had to really figure things out by myself, and I think this is the case for a lot of guys. So that being said, it's very easy to be led astray when you're watching these different creators online, because you can start to take them on as a leader that you start to follow, and whatever they say, you are heavily influenced by them. And I think this is very good, but can also be very negative if you're following the wrong advice. So I want to break down some of the things that I am kind of seeing is as this evolution happens over these next couple of years. And I think this is really going to open up a lot of opportunity for guys who adopt this kind of perspective and really see that there is a change happening, and there's a massive gap that needs to be filled so that we can become the best versions of ourselves, so that we can become stronger men and really redefine what masculinity really means to us and to the rest of the world. So the way I see this happening is that over the last number of years, there's been self-improvement, which is things like health and fitness, which is things like dating and relationships and kind of the red pill community. But there's also then the development of finding your purpose and understanding what it means to have meaning in the world as a man. And all of these things are so, so positive. But where you see the big miscommunication when it comes to people like Andrew Tate is that his message is generally positive. Become a better man, become a stronger man, lead, and just work hard. There's a very, very positive message to that. But it's picked up in the wrong way by a lot of young guys because of the way the lifestyle is presented. I can't even tell you the amount of YouTube videos that have popped up from young creators who are talking like Andrew Tate or talking like people like Hamza and pretending to be them or trying to be them and not really tapping into their own true power, their own true authenticity. And they're trying to be someone that they're not because they're being led by this influential character that they see as their leader, okay? And of course, there's nothing wrong with that when the message is overly positive, but when you are a young guy, and if you don't see through the lifestyle and the marketing behind all of it, it can get very, very miscommunicated. And what I mean by this is that there's been also a rise of creators out there who are creating content around how to get more women, how to be a more masculine in a relationship, which I think is very, very positive and is necessary. It's a journey that I've been on myself as well, and it's very, very important. It's helped me greatly. But there's also this other side of it that's been adopted where masculinity is being presented as glorified pimping and measuring your status as a man by how many women you can sleep with. Now, I don't know about you, but that to me does not come across as a strong leader, as a strong masculine character. Because in reality, if we look at what that is boyish behavior. That does not define what it means to be a man. And of course, getting the reps in and having experience with women is extremely important. So I want you to understand here that I'm not saying that that is not important. There is two sides to everything, but there's also a boundary that has to be put in place so that you can see that getting this type of experience is important, but it also doesn't mean that that is the be all and end all of you becoming a man. Because at the end of the day, you may understand women's psychology, you may adopt the red pill mentality, but when you are looking at these figures and you start to adopt the lifestyle and you're seeing everything on the surface and you're going out there and you're trying to sleep with as many women as possible, that does not make you a better man. What makes you a better man, at least the way I understand it, is developing an element of excellence in yourself, within your purpose, within who you are as a man, but also developing a gentleman-like elegance to who you are. Not being this egotistical guy who's out there trying to sleep with as many women as possible and thinking that that is masculinity. That is not masculinity. And I have so much empathy for the guys who believe this, because I fell into that trap as well, where I was trying to get with as many women as possible, and it just ended up being extremely unfulfilling. I was lost in a lot of my relationships, and I ended up being worse off in the process. Now, as I started to develop this new perspective and started to see self-improvement as kind of a baseline that every guy needs to have, but then developing and adopting the evolution of that, which is self-mastery, where now you're tapping into the energy, the leadership that you need to have, and being committed and loyal to the man that you are trying to become, and shifting your identity into that master. Because you'll see here I have written down the modern master, and to me the modern master is a man who adopts masculine excellence within himself. He has integrity, he is loyal, he is committed to his personal development, but he's not overly egotistical in the fact that when he achieves some element of success, he now thinks that he's above other people and starts to think he's above treating women with respect and above treating other people with respect. There's a misconception that's getting mixed up there, and I see it to be a bit too present when it comes to social media. When did masculinity become about racking up a body count? If we go back to where the red pill idea really came from, which was pickup artists who were adopting these tactics and strategies to be able to pick up women. Now, of course, like I said before, this was extremely important for men to be able to understand these things and to be able to have more success with women, because there's things like hypergamy that does exist and we cannot ignore those things. But somewhere along the way, the ego starts to lead the way, and that's where the problem lies. Because if you cannot control that, and if you cannot master yourself in such a way where you can control the ego and understand when you are being led by the ego and separate that, that is the biggest downfall. Because if we look at a lot of these creators who were creating content around this time, a lot of them have dropped off. A lot of them have just completely disappeared and their lives have been ruined. Because really overall, that way of living is completely one-sided and it ignores everything else that is important in life as well, which is love, which is relationships, which is building a connection with somebody. And these things are just as important as human beings as it is to be able to have these tactics and strategies to be able to get to where you want to be and have the success that you want. So I truly believe that there's an evolution happening, and it's not just about understanding these things I'm talking about, but it's actually just about understanding what self-mastery is. Self-mastery is things like self-awareness, self-discovery, self-transcendence, self-transformation. All of these things where we understand more about who we are as a human being, which is far more than just a body in a meat suit, right? We have the ability to create our reality. We have the ability to master our minds, master our emotions, master our energy, so that we can become more of what we truly are, which is a spiritual being. Now, whether you believe in God, you believe in source, you believe in the universe, whatever your belief system is, I truly believe that we are here for a given purpose. And our duty here as men is to find our purpose and live it. We need to live it so that we can actually contribute to the world and actually make a difference to not only our own lives, but the families that we lead as well. And the way I see this playing out is being able to balance the masculine and the feminine energy within all of us, because whether you like to admit it or not, we have masculine energy within us and we have feminine energy within us. And this has nothing to do with male or female. There's nothing to do with hormones, nothing like that. This is energy. The female energy within all of us is the ability to trust our intuition, the ability to understand how the universe works and tap into energy in such a way where we can start to master the reality around us. And when we look at the masculine side, it's more about going after it by having discipline, by cultivating focus within ourselves so that we can balance these two energies. Now, we need to be able to master this as men so that we can live our purpose and actually fulfill that. And the reason I mention this is because everything in the universe is perfectly balanced. If you look at nature and nature's way, God's way, whatever you want to call it, there's perfect balance in the universe. If we were to completely be wiped off the planet and humans didn't exist, nature would still keep growing. It would still manage itself. And that's something that our human minds can't even comprehend. Everything in the universe is balanced. And if we look at the principle of polarity, the principle of polarity states that everything has an equal and opposite. We have light and dark, we have hot and cold, we have up and down, and we do not understand one without the other. And with that understanding, we can start to see that if we are out of balance in ourselves, if the world is out of balance, then it must be brought back to equilibrium, because nature's way is always bringing things back to balance. A great example of this is if we look at forest fires, particularly in Australia. There's an interesting thing based around these forest fires that I learned about, which is a perfect example of what this actually looks like. Clearing the forest floor is nature's way of preventing massive destructive fires to happen in the future, because instead of having a big massive fire where all the debris raises up and starts to catch fire and causes massive destruction, it clears the forest floor by having small fires that clear the debris from the forest floor to stop this from happening. This is just nature's way of balancing things out. And we start to look at things as humans being like, oh my God, there's forest fires, we need to put these things out. Of course, that's part of it, but this is just nature's way of balancing it. So we begin to think as humans that we are smarter than the universe itself, which is just a completely false way of looking at the world. So the reason I mention this is because when we look at the balance of the masculine and the feminine, right now, the masculinity space is too far this side. It's too far over here. And when it's too far over here, it has to come back into balance, which means that there is a lack of spirituality. There's a lack of connection to God. And it's more about how many women can I sleep with? And this type of focus over the last couple of years has now caused an imbalance in the universe. We need to come back to spirituality. We need to come back to religion. We need to come back to having a holistic view of our own personal development as men, so that we can become well-rounded, so that we can have great relationships, so that we can have great people in our network so that we can become the best version of ourselves, so that we can become the strongest version of ourselves, so that we can become mentally strong, spiritually connected, and stop being one-sided in this process, so we can start to tap into our intuition, so that we can follow our life's direction and understand more about spirituality and connection to source, because we are spiritual beings. I don't believe that we're just randomly here and we start our life, we go through a couple of things and then we just die. It's far more than that. We are spiritual beings. We are here to live our purpose, and we constantly have to be aware of which side we're leaning towards, because really the power comes from being able to operate from that middle section. Now, of course, if you're a man and you're feeling like you're more in your feminine energy and you are not really being disciplined, you're not really being able to cultivate good habits and routines that are going to actually serve you, then you need to lean more in the masculine direction. But there's also a place where you become so masculine where you actually forget about your connection to God. You forget about your connection to the universe. You forget about your connection to your intuition, which is your guiding light in all of this world. And when you do that, you start to become this really hard-working, rigid man who struggles to actually connect with people and struggles actually to see human beings the way that they are, which is just another splinter of consciousness, which is the same thing that you are. And this is just such an interesting topic, because I feel like that there's a massive evolution coming when it comes to more people talking about this balance and being able to really start to cultivate both energies within us, so that we can live a full life, so that we can contribute to the world the way we're supposed to contribute, live our unique purpose, and do that to the best of our ability, become great at that one thing and live that every single day, so that we can live with meaning, with fulfillment, and become the best version of ourselves, and not be led by the ego mind, and not be led by greed, and not be led by desire, but to be led by purpose, by meaning, combining the masculine excellence with the elegance of the gentleman, and bringing those two together so that you can become a kind, loving, caring man who's also extremely dangerous and can control that and is a leader for himself and for his family. There's a combination of those two, which we find ourselves in the middle here, and that middle section is where true masculinity is, the way I see it. And of course, this is my personal opinion, but I would love to hear what you have to say in the comments. Do you feel this evolution? Do you feel like this is a change that is happening? I don't know. I feel like that this is the evolution that we need to master, specifically the way things are at this given time. And as men, it's our job to step up. It's our job to tap into this, and it's our job to really lead the way and live a life of self-mastery and begin to make that transition from self-improvement to self-mastery by mastering our mind, mastering our body, mastering our spirit, and being able to cultivate this excellence within ourselves. I believe that life in itself is a process of learning and unlearning. And maybe there's some things when it comes to the masculinity space that we do have to unlearn as men, so that we can move into this next phase, so that we can adopt this evolution and not get stuck in a rigid way of thinking, in a fixed mindset that's going to stop us from actually evolving as human beings. I think we do need to ask ourselves the question, what is masculinity, and what does that mean to us, and what does that mean to our development as men? Is there some things that we need to unlearn? Is there some things that we need to relearn? And I think overall what we really need is brotherhood. What we really need is connection. What we really need is to be able to help each other to see these different perspectives and to start asking the questions, what does it truly mean to be a man? I completely get that this video is a bit of a rant, but I just felt called to share this. I feel like that there's something missing in the space, and us as men, we need to start to understand that there's a gap here that needs to be filled. There's men out there that need this help, and we have to take responsibility for this as much as possible. So just let me know what you think in the comments below. Let's open up a discussion about this, and I'll see you in the next video.